Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome. We did it. We did it. We got through the 50th. And not only did we get through the 50th anniversary celebration at Sunrise, we had an absolute blast. What an amazing day it was yesterday. And so today, here in the Backshed Bible Study, we are going to look back over yesterday's celebration. We're going to put together a few highlights, get into some more specifics, and we're going to have a good time. So, welcome to the Backshed. Okay, now that you are here joining me, I want you all to know I have multiple screens operating at the same time, so you're going to have to bear with me as there is a lot happening here that I'm kind of producing in my office today, because we're going to be doing a lot of screen sharing, showing pictures that were up on the screen yesterday, stories that were told, and reflect back. I am expecting audience interaction with you all today. So please feel free to jump right in, make comments, ask questions, clarify things, correct things if they're wrong. But this is really kind of, we're going to do a little bit of a historical sketch of the church. Like I say, we're going to show lots of pictures today. I'm going to put up on the screen and have a good time looking back at that. If you did not get to make the celebration yesterday, I would highly encourage you to jump online, go to our YouTube page, or even on Facebook, where you can click on the video there, watch the video, see the various people that were a part of it. It was really cool. I've talked to so many different people that had different highlights about yesterday's service. And one of the ones, somebody I talked to this morning, they said it was so neat to see all of the different worship leaders over the past that were on the platform together. So if you were looking at our stage from the audience, you saw on the toward the far left was Jeanette Hall. And Jeanette served as our choir director here back in, I think if I get this right, kind of the late 2000s. And her kids grew up in our ministry here. Her son Alex was in my high school ministry, was a freshman the year we started here at Sunrise, and so it was just really neat to have Jeanette there, and she was leading. We had Steve and Sandy Padilla. They came all the way out from Colorado Springs, Colorado, where Steve serves as a worship pastor at Heart of the Springs Church out there. And then we had Rachel Jackson. She came back. Rachel was with us at Sunrise from 2013 to 2020, serving as our choir director, and then going on to be our worship pastor. And she was responsible for helping leading a team that helped walk us through the COVID season. So really cool stuff. And there you have it. So I'm going to jump in right now. And this is going to serve as a little bit of a biographical sketch. If you got to hear Gary and Nancy Kraber, they went through yesterday and read the story of Sunrise, which was a lot of fun. And yes, Gary is fine. He kind of tripped and fell as he was stepping off the stage yesterday, but he is just fine. I went backstage and spent some time with him right afterwards, and yesterday in the evening got to spend some time with him, and so he is doing great. But here is, if you did miss some of it, here's the story of Sunrise, and it kind of started with something as simple as this. This is a newspaper article back from in the early 1970s. You can see this is November of 72. And the Sunrise Mall had been built up right there around 1970. So think the corner of Sunrise and Greenback right over there. On this picture where it shows Montgomery Ward's there at the bottom, that is what we know as the current building that Lowe's is in over there. You can see that Walgreens on the corner there that is in progress, getting worked on there. And then across the top, you'll see there where it shows the Sunrise Mall and Macy's there on the far left as we know it today. And it was seriously the kind of latest and greatest thing going on in the area. And the best way I can describe this is if you think about like the Roseville Galleria, where that's kind of the place to be. And people come from miles and miles to go to this mall to have a good time shopping or whatever. And the Sunrise Mall was kind of that for the region. And so people would come from as far away as West Sac and even out of town and out of the foothills and this place where they could go shopping. I don't know, any of you all used to walk the mall? There was a drive-through theater not far from here, visible actually from the church. And so the North American Baptist Conference had a couple of other churches that were already a part of it. Sunrise, let's get this right. Quail Lakes Baptist Church in Stockton was part of the NorCal Association of the North American Baptist Conference. That's a mouthful. And then the First Baptist Church of Elk Grove, which we know as Creekside Community Church, were part of a church planting movement that was happening in the North American Baptist Church. And so they were able to put together some people that lived in the area to start a Bible study. That's the 7 people that started that Bible study back in 73. And then the North American Baptist Conference purchased, before they purchased this property, they gave the Kerns a call. And back there at the end of 73. And so the Kerns moved out from Aberdeen, Wisconsin, and or not Wisconsin. Goodness me, forgive me as I'm trying to do multiple things here today. They came out from South Dakota, and so let me put a little picture of the Kern family on the screen for you in case you missed that one yesterday. But here are the Kerns way back then. Gene was only 40 years old when he and Eleanor came out. And there are their kids, their oldest son, Murray, and daughter, Janelle, and Kent. Some of you may remember Kent Kern, who was I believe the right word is superintendent, or he was head over the whole San Juan School District for many, many years. And then Janelle, she went on to marry the son of Mick Andrews, and so she married Mitch, and they're actually out in Europe right now having a great time on vacation. But there is your is it not showing up? Let's share it. Sorry. I realize I'm talking and not looking at you and didn't even put that on the screen. There is a picture of the Kern family. Wayne, thank you for joining on. You're going to be really helpful. So Wayne Lord, who is with us today, was one of the early members. He attended Sunrise back when they were meeting at the Fair Oaks Grange Hall. And that was the original location, which has some really cool history there. So, but that was where Sunrise met as a church right there. How's that for humble beginnings? But Wayne said that they moved to Citrus Heights and started to work at McClellan out at the Air Force Base out there in 74 when the Sunrise Mall opened. And so you can see the Grange Hall. And then I'm skipping ahead. I'm going to go back to the Grange Hall for a second. Actually, what I'm going to do is we're going to jump off of the screen share. Thank you for being patient with me this morning. And I'm going to come back and show you another document that I have a picture of because I think it helps tell more of the story of Sunrise here. And so this was a document that I actually used quite a bit to put together the history of Sunrise that was read yesterday by the Krabers. And uh, this document was so fun to read. So I'm going to pop it up here on your screen for you all to see as well. But um, this was an application that was put in back in April of 1980 for the church to be able to get a loan to build the worships. I'm sorry, to build, I believe, the children's buildings. And this building where I'm standing or sitting right now in, which is our office building here. And so the church was growing, and so they wanted to build another building, and so they had to do cost estimates and all that. And then as part of the document, I'm going to stop here on this page. You can see some of the history that was put into this document, the church general information. It shows the membership on the rolls, and so you can see starting in 1975, where they had 103 people on membership, going all the way to 79, where they had 716. Sunday school enrollment. This was an interesting thing to me when you looked, and they had in that year of 1975, $60,678 came in. And by 79, that number was 413,000, where these people that were a part of this church were committed, they were faithfully giving. And then as another part of this document that was really fun to read, I'm sorry, was the story of Sunrise in so many ways, that they had to present this story to be able to get the loan to build these buildings. And so it talks about how the Kerns began working with the Bible study, the original 7, in January of 74. And February 3rd, they had their first Sunday school session, 18 in attendance, 22 at the first worship service. On September 22nd, the first baptismal service, 15 candidates baptized there. October 27th, they had a special time where 55 members were brought in as their charter members, their original starting members. And of those 55, we still have a handful of those charter members that are still alive, and a few of them were there at the service yesterday. Mona Gregg was one of those, and she and I talked for a few minutes yesterday, and I'm working to get an interview with Mona. That's going to be a good time, and she'll have some fun stories to tell us. Kind of like you, Wayne, you'll have some fun stories to tell us too. You'll notice that it went on. Let's see here. November of 75, and to have 2 morning worship services, okay? And at that point, I believe that the building that we are in right now had already been constructed. Now, I have some good construction pictures, so let's go over to that for a second. So we're going to do a little change here on the screen share, and we are going to move over to, let's see here, we're going to stop that for a second. I'm going to wave at you all. And then we are going to share this one. That's the wrong one. I have so many different pictures up right now. So let's see. We're going to get rid of that one. We're going to get onto this one. Share that. Okay, we'll go with that one. All right. Oops. Well, isn't this fun? Okay, there we go. We had the Grange Hall. We had, there it is. Okay. The original breaking ground on the facility here. You can look at where they are. As this kind of hillside is heading up, you're looking at the cars driving on Greenback. And uh, oh, you know what? Let me tell you what, Wayne. As I was writing the history, you could if you have any problems with the history, yell at me. Okay, I wrote the whole thing. After it was all said and done, I went back and went, I didn't say anything about Bethlehem Village, so I apologize for that. Bethlehem Village was a very big part about Sunrise. So thank you for pointing that out. But yes, I after all was said and done, looked back and went, should have talked about that. So thank you for pointing that out. You'll see in these pictures here the greenback in the background, and the housing next door wasn't even developed yet. So this is kind of looking to the southeast as they had the concept drawings, and they had a service out there that day to commit that, and then all of the oh boy, just went on. Let's see here. We had, and this was what was remarkable as you look at these pictures. The people that are working out here are mostly volunteers. And obviously, when you get some of the big heavy equipment, you got professionals there. But these are the people that made this happen. The church self-contracted this, so they took care of it all. And there is, I think this might be groundbreaking for another building that took place, and as they kept going. But what a great time of growth. Ultimately ended up with this facility over several years. I can point out, hopefully you can see my cursor here, that the original building was right there. And then they had this wing on that building. And if you look carefully at the roof line, you can see the coloration in the roof, and that this section of the roof and this section of the roof are both the same. And so those are our original pieces. And then what we have today as our preschool is it was a part of that. And so this really was your worship center. And then your office was right back here in the corner. And in that corner office, Pastor Gene had his office. It's what we know today as the resource room. And then their Sunday school classrooms and so on. In the next phase, they did three major things. They built our administration building, where I sit. I sit right now, right down there where I'm pointing the arrow. They did these children's buildings, what we know as Building C and Building D. And then they also built this extension off of the worship center that added in bathrooms and more room right in there. Our current prayer room was then, but is there right now, but it was a copy room. I think the print center was in there. Speaking of the print center, okay, so this will be a good excuse to go down in this. Let's see, we're going to go back to where I can look at you for a second, because I'm going to pull up a picture from that showed up on the slideshow yesterday, and that is okay, people are texting me, wanting me to call them right now. Don't you know I'm doing backshed right now? Let's see here. One picture. It is going to be called Sunrise Reflections. All right. This was a newsletter, a weekly newsletter that would go out every week out of Sunrise. And so it would be mailed to everyone that was in the church. And as I head up here, you're going to be able to see part of this was one from 1980. And Luke alluded to this in yesterday's message, where he talks about quoting Gene. And you'll see here in this newsletter that Gene says right here, we live in very difficult but exciting times. I firmly believe that it's imperative for us as Christians to take a bold stand for Christ. In order to do that, we have to be grounded and rooted firmly in the Word of God. And as your pastor, I once again commit myself to sound biblical preaching and teaching ministry. Okay. This was so cool to look at this, because this was again, let's see, here we go. When I look at this, this is nothing has changed, right? We get ourselves so fired up. We do our Chicken Little thing often, that the sky is falling, and yet I love the way Gene said we live in very difficult but exciting times. And if I could editorialize here for a second, that is such a good way to describe the age that we live in today, which is in some ways very similar to 50 years ago, and yet so different, right? We're dealing with different difficult issues, but he saw the bright side of that. These are exciting times. And so the next time you, as a follower of Christ, maybe start to get discouraged about where we are, the state of things with our elections coming up, and go, hey, God's got us here right now. And he has us placed and poised to be on this earth, to be a salt and light, to give the word of God to people boldly. And that was the same 50 years ago here at Sunrise. And so I'm glad we found this gem from Pastor Gene from years ago. I had a conversation with Elenor Kern yesterday at the end of, after everything was done kind of in our buildings, we went up to what we call the Kern Memorial, or the Kern Commemorative Haven, and we talked for a few minutes up there, and we had a dedication service. But I was talking to Elenor afterwards, and the thing that stood out to me was this. It was a year ago that Gene passed away, and we had services for him, and just a powerful time. Right around the same time, Elenor was diagnosed with cancer, and they really had thought that they were going to lose Elenor. And yet God kept her here and took Gene. And she kind of looks at me and says, he's not done with me. I don't know what he has for me, but he's not done with me. And, you know, as believers, I look back to when Paul said, I desire to depart and be with Christ, which is much better. But, and then I paraphrase this because I don't have this memorized exactly as it is, but I'm here right now, essentially going, I'm here. God has me here, and so I am going to live here because this is where Christ wants me. And that's how it should be for every one of us. As we live in these difficult times, I think we want to say, I desire to depart and be with Christ. Come, Lord Jesus, right? We say that. And yet at the same time, God has called us to be here today. I love it. Okay. Hey, Micah, Paul, thank you so much for the comments along the way. I love what Paul says. Excellent service as a relatively new person to Sunrise. It's fun to hear the history, all the singers on stage, the choir wrapping up. The choir was amazing. Yes, I'm sure we have that recorded. Okay. All the people that were involved. Let me run you down through just a few more pictures here, realizing that we'll never be able to get through everything, but we have some of these. All right, I already did that one. Let's find oh, this is a good aerial shot. Let's share this one for you. So you can see in this picture, looking toward the west from the east, and you can see the veterinary center. This kind of stood out to me. Now, we all realize now that this whole section of land is Sunrise parking lot. It didn't originally belong to the church. I believe it was Dr. Bone that had owned the veterinary clinic that sold that piece of land to the church. Look at this giant hillside right here. This hillside ended up be completely getting leveled in order to build the parking lot that went on out there. So good perspective on there. Let's see what else I have. Here's a good picture from a service going on in the original worship center that we know today as the youth room. So this is where our high schoolers meet. These windows are no longer glass windows. They bricked in that area, but you can look back towards the entrance there. Um, and let's see, I believe we have elders. This is probably back in the 80s, right? Carla Walth is here. There's Dan Canoin there. There's Mick Andrews there. I believe that's Pastor Larry. And Wayne, I'm sure you could tell us who all the other people are, but I don't have you on live here, so we'll wait till we actually get to have you on. This was fun in the 80s. I actually Googled Oldsmobile Omega and came up with the year that this car would have been to show me what year this picture was. But notice the giant oak tree there, giant oak tree there. That section up there, that tree no longer exists. It got sick and was cut down, and three other trees were planted in its place. And the current haven that we dedicated to Eleanor and Gene right there. So pretty cool. And look at that church bus. I love that church bus. It makes its way into another picture here pretty soon. This picture now you can look out and you can see the old Sunrise. What is that? Drive-in movie theater back over there. So I believe, and somebody else correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this picture is taken looking toward the west. So across the top of the hill there, looking back to the west. I could be wrong, but that's my guess from what I see right there. So that's the northwest corner of their property right back there. Okay, then we had some lots of shows. The youth. Notice the wild youth colors. I'm guessing these are kids that are probably my age at the time. The length of people's shorts, that kind of thing. Thank you, Wayne. I was right for once. Here we have the building of the worship center that's getting started right there. And that's a good look back up. You can see, again, that's the oak tree that ended up having to be taken out, where the three other trees. A few minutes ago, we were talking about the building that was going on along the work along that top fence up there. But that's the current worship center where everybody is. And here is a service that happened outside, and this is another peek. I believe this was a dedication service for the new worship center. The parking lot was already in place back over there. Now, as you look over here behind the vet clinic and Camp Bow Wow, that fence, boy, we've been having to make some repairs to that fence over the last year with some of the storms last year. But it's kind of fun to see that. I love how they pulled the church bus, Sunrise Baptist Church bus, into the picture right there. But I'll come back one picture. There you can see some of the folks love the hats, right? Love the hats of that time. You've got the grader that's out here in the background. And don't miss wonderful things of the 80s. So this is probably 1987. When this was taken, which I would have been a senior in high school at this time. And remember the old cardboard window shades for people's cars. You can see, let me see if I can, yeah, look at that right there. You had the old cardboard window shades right there. Lots of fun. And this one, I mean, I'll give a bonus to anybody who can tell me where this is. This actually isn't a very hard thing, but you gotta tell me the room number. Room number. All right. Nobody's answering that. It's room B204. It's in the upper corner of the worship center. It is fireside room. Sometimes people call it that. And now it's our focus of our marriage ministry is out of there. So top room, senior mom Sunday. There you go. Fireside room. Good answers. Uh, Staff meetings used to take place in the church library, which is today what we know as the kids check-in room. So that's another fun one to look at. And then the building was continuing to be built, and there was some kind of service that had happened. Notice Dan Canoin's name as the architect on the new Family Worship Center out there on the sign. Inside, we you can look back up at the sound booth that's upstairs. Now our sound booth is all right down here. And there you have the campus almost as we know it today. And we'll go back a couple of things here, but there's Carlo Walth and my friend Dick Gray, who is one of our elders today. Donna Crossan made it into our slideshow, still playing the organ, and this picture popped up on the screen yesterday morning as Donna was getting ready to start playing the organ prelude for the service yesterday. So such a cool time there. And there you see Dave and Donna Crossan with their kids, who a few of whom were there yesterday. And I believe this was at the 25th, maybe the Kern's 25th anniversary. I'm not sure, but Pastor Mick is there with Gene and Eleanor. There's a golf bag. A lot of pictures. Let me tell you what, to go through from the past that we found in and getting to scan those through. And here's a poignant one as I look at this picture. There's Pastor Larry and Ron Rogalski right here in this picture. That Ron would speak so much of the impact that Larry had on his life, and what a mentor he was to him, and what an encourager he was to him. Some great stories that Ron told, as well as other stories that Trevor Hislop told. And so if you look back, if you didn't get to see Ron's interview that we had here on Backshed, you'll definitely want to do it and really get some insight into this man's character. What an amazing man that God gave us. And it was very difficult to see him go through that struggle that he had with dementia, and ultimately his passing a few years ago. But anyway, what a privilege to be able to see God work, and having a great tribute to him yesterday through that time. So again, more pictures. We still have the praying hands pulpit in the back, so that's kind of a fun one too. And I'll just show you here at the very end as we wrap up. A couple of years ago, we were able to actually not even a couple of years ago. Sorry there. We'll come back here for a second while I find some of these closing pictures. But there we go. We have, oh, I'm in the wrong album, aren't I? Let's find it here. I took you through the entire, there we go, right here. This one, love this picture right here, because 1978 is when we started. Okay, hey, that's good to know right there. Okay, check out this one. This is a modern day picture there of the front of the youth building, or the original worship center. Uh, Point out a couple things. So we were able to, as part of a security grant that the church was awarded a few years back, we were able to improve lighting outside. And with that, we added in these uplights, got them working, got the uplights working on the steeple. Um, Ron Rogalski and I think, had a fun conversation about that steeple, and how cool it was to have, this old thing that seems like a bit of a relic, but it's there on our current building, and points to Christ and tells a story of the past, and yet is here as the present as we look toward the future. But this was it was neat to see the day that we got those lights working, and we're able to light that whole thing up, and you just see that cross with on the brick part of the building right there that is highlighted. And God's been so faithful, right? Over so many years, God's been faithful. And I will show you. This was the list of people we put up. May I point out that I misspelled Quinn Eichhorst's name, so I've got to go back and fix that. But this was the not an exhaustive list of everybody that worked at Sunrise, but many of the pastors and directors that were here and are here over the years. And it's just fun to remember some of them, honor some of them, and just see how God used some of them. And so many of these names were names that I recognized, even though I never knew these people, because the stories of how God used them had been told over and over and over. And so I know, Trudy, we talked yesterday about David Moore. Multiple people have mentioned David Moore and the impact that he had in the youth ministry here. Wayne, you're talking about Gary Vossler. He married you and Cheryl. That's so cool. The first associate pastor. Okay, Trudy, great question. You'll notice that Rich Sherman's name is not on there, but who else's name is not in there, Trudy? That's right. Gene Kern's name is not on there. Derek Zand is only on there for the section of the time when he worked as a college intern here. And Luke's name is not on there either. I did not put the pastors on there because they got major highlights during the narrative section that the Krabers read. So that is why those four individuals their pastoral tenure is not on here, because when you listened to the story yesterday, you would have heard strong highlights of their times here. Does that make sense? All right. Okay. Micah, I've been meaning to show you this slide. Let's see if Cliff can pull this one up for you, because this was, I ran across this little beauty when I was putting together the slideshow, and it has, let's find it, my friend. Okay. High school. Oh, there it is. All right. This is one of my backshed regulars and friend, Micah Paul, as a senior in high school. Look at that. Yes, Richard, yesterday's service was on YouTube. It was on Facebook. It is still available and will be available for a long time. Just go online, facebook.com/Sunrise Community Online, or youtube.com/Sunrise Community Church. Micah, this one also. Oh, no, that one too. We'll get there in a second. But there's your lovely wife in there as well, as a senior in high school. Thought that one was fun. And then we might as well throw this one on there. I believe that's you as a graduating senior. Who would have thought you would be right there, and your future wife would be right there. Um, so cool. And there's Jessica. Her parents were there yesterday. I think Bree might be in this picture. Chappie joined us remotely. Steve Robitaille, David Pells. So many people. I think that's David Pells. I don't know. Anyway, you can tell me. Okay. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to stop the share. Let's finish this off because we could go on for days, but it's 40 minutes in already. Um, I just want to say the big takeaway I have coming out of these last several weeks, and in the time that I've been getting to spend getting to know Sunrise through its history, is this: is that over time, God chose to use this place and its people to accomplish His work. They weren't perfect, and they made mistakes, and this institution made mistakes along the way. But God, for some reason, said, I want Sunrise to be a place where I accomplish my will, and so here's how I'm going to do it. And it was so cool to hear those stories. Even last night, I spoke over at chapel, and we just told testimony about how God faithfully used all of these people over these last 50 years. And it was just fun to talk about it. And yesterday after the service, I talked with Dave Torres. Dave was part of the class of 1997 and of graduated high schoolers who Dave is a pastor. He is a faithful man of God. And we talked through so many pieces of his class, which his class is full of a number of guys who headed on into ministry, full-time ministry vocationally, as well as on the mission field that came out of that class of 97. And I said, well, what's the commonality? And he just kind of looked at me and said, God did it. God just chose to do this. And God chose to use Sunrise to accomplish His will, and what a privilege to be a part of it. One of the things I noticed over the years is that Sunrise has been a place for people to heal, to come from brokenness and find themselves at Sunrise and to experience seasons of healing, which is pretty incredible to be a part of that kind of legacy that's here. My challenge for us today, and then we're going to jump back into having guests that tell us the stories of the past over the next several weeks. But my challenge to us today, however, is we need to be cautious about celebrating the past, about celebrating, and what I mean by that, maybe the better word, maybe it's not celebrating the past. I think we just need to be cautious about looking at the past and saying that's how it should be today. That we need to know God called Sunrise to do what Sunrise did then, and then God's calling us today to do what Sunrise is doing today. And that oftentimes we reflect on the past and say, well, we should be doing it that way, and don't realize God's in the process of doing a new thing. And so we can celebrate that new thing and know that God is going to be faithful today in the same way He was faithful 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20, 10 today, right? And boy, my nostalgia says everything should be like it was in 1987. And but no, it needs to be where it is today. And because that's where God has us for such a time as this, to take a great passage out of Esther, slightly out of context. All right. That's where we are today. I'm looking forward to next week. Let's pray and we'll be on our way. Father, thank you for a trip down memory road today, and or memory lane, that is. And thank you for your faithfulness at Sunrise over so many years. And God, would we just continue to celebrate your great work in your kingdom work that is being done, not just in the past, but also today. Thank you for my friends that have been commenting along today. And we love you. We're grateful. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, dear friends, thank you so much for joining me today here. I'm going to try to wrap all of this up on the various screens that I have, but you got to be patient with me. Like I said, there's a lot happening here today. Crystal, thank you for joining us from Wisconsin. Yeah, Lee, how cool is that? We had Randy on here, Micah, Richard, Trudy, so many of you a part of this. And Wayne, your insight, like I said yesterday, love to get you onto one of these and tell some of those stories back from the Grange Hall even. All right. Okay, that's it. Please join us next week. Also, if you don't catch us live, don't forget that you can go back and watch on YouTube anytime, youtube.com/Sunrise Community Church, or just search the Back Shed Bible Study. But all of our episodes, all the way back to day one, are available on YouTube. We also are on the podcasting platforms of iTunes and many others, and you can listen along via podcast format. But if you watch live, 10 o'clock on Monday mornings. All right. Thanks for joining, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.